What the helly? The protagonist wakes up in his bed in the middle of the night, confused as to why he sees a floating door above him. He stares at it for a while, wondering if it's some kind of magic trick. He opens the door and abruptly falls in. The protagonist looks up and notices another space inside the door. It's so dark that he yells out, asking if anyone is there. As he stares into the void, he hears a thumping noise approaching. No diddy. He sees a gigantic human centipede with 3 glowing green eyes crawling toward him. The protagonist screams and runs back toward the door he fell from. He slams it shut, shouting, "That world is dangerous." As the door closes, it begins to vanish. Suddenly, the protagonist hears a random voice in his head. "Congratulations, human. You have awakened the ability, World Link." Startled, he looks around to see who's talking. The voice assures him not to worry, it's using interdimensional telepathic communication. The voice then tells him to check his backpack. The protagonist finds a golden, evil-looking skull statue inside. The voice says that is the cursed statue of the wicked Ghost King. Someone deliberately placed it near you to curse you, kill you, and steal your soul. But you survived. Confused, the protagonist suddenly feels memories flooding into his mind. The body he's in belonged to a middle schooler named Shinyi. The original owner's soul was destroyed by the statue's curse, and at that very moment, the protagonist had died from overwork in his own dimension. The voice in his head continues, when the curse fails to kill, it grants unimaginable powers, the ability to accumulate millions of souls. The voice tells him to summon the door again. It now belongs to him, thanks to the World Link ability. A system window pops up. Title acquired, Polite Person. Effect: when the user is polite, others will slightly have a better impression of him. The voice in his head says it's running out of strength. Whoever used the cursed statue will return once they realize he's still alive. The protagonist asks why the voice is telling him all of this. The voice responds, "Because I need you. The world you stumbled upon is called the Nightmare Realm, and I'm trapped there. Grow stronger. Reach its depths. Free me and you will be handsomely rewarded." Then the voice disappears. The protagonist wonders who would want to kill him or Shinyi. He didn't see any enemies in Shinya's memories who would want him dead. He makes up his mind he will go through the door again. But first, he equips his new title. Maybe this time he can negotiate with the gigantic human centipede. No, Diddy, the protagonist really does introduce himself to the human centipede and says his name is Shinyi. At the same time, he activates his polite person skill. The human centipede replies with a low growl. The protagonist apologizes for interrupting its meal and says he would like to become friends. The human centipede then rushes at the protagonist as if it wants to join a Diddy party. The protagonist retreats, saying he just wanted to have a little chat. But the human centipede destroys the door, causing the protagonist to fall back onto his bed. I wonder what happens next? Just kidding. The protagonist then notices the door has vanished again and a system window appears. Titles can only be earned once a day. You've already used today's opportunity. Try again tomorrow. The protagonist is frustrated because he can't get past the human centipede and wants to obtain more titles before the person who wants him dead shows up. He re-enters the door and tells the human centipede that he can't get caught because he has the ability to travel between 2 worlds. He just wants to talk. The human centipede seems to listen, then changes its mind and starts walking away. The protagonist notices it is injured and offers to help heal it. The creature stops walking, intrigued. The protagonist says he has calcium pills that can repair bones and offers to give them in exchange for friendship. The human centipede creates a blast of purple light from its hand. Suddenly, a contract appears, an equal exchange agreement for both parties. If either is dissatisfied, they may terminate it. The protagonist signs his name, Shinyi. The contract is complete. In the next scene, a man and a woman are offering their son medicine and something to drink. He has just returned home after being discharged from the hospital. The son thanks his parents. He remembers that in his last life, he grew up in an orphanage, so it feels nice to have someone care for him. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. 2 police officers enter the home and say they're there about Shun Ye's case. In the next scene, the police officers explain to the parents that incidents like this occur countless times throughout the year and are unpredictable. Unfortunately, there's nothing they can do. The protagonist thinks to himself, the real Shinyi was killed by some monster summoned by that damn curse. One of the officers looks at the protagonist and says he doesn't have anything to worry about because the hospital will be closing and what happened to him won't happen again. The protagonist looks relieved. The officer adds that they haven't found anyone who might hold a grudge against him. Then the police proceed to leave the home. The protagonist notices that the officers clearly don't want to deal with anything related to the curse. He wonders who would use such a powerful curse against a middle schooler. Mid-thought, the protagonist notices the police officers walking back toward him. One of them hands him a card and says that if anything seems off or abnormal, he should call him directly. The protagonist stares at the card and thinks, not everyone is useless. But then worry creeps in. Whoever is after him must know he's still alive. He's afraid they may go after Shin Ye's family next. He tells himself he needs to get stronger. In the following scene, the protagonist activates his powers to open the magical door. He calls out for the human centipede, saying he brought the calcium tablets. The human centipede notices a tonic in the protagonist's pocket and summons a contract to exchange it for one of his items from his collection of war spoils. A low-tier nightmare crystal crafted by high elves, who were once enemies of the giant skeleton centipede. The crystal can directly instill knowledge, skills, techniques, or intel into the user. The protagonist snaps the crystal, and a system window appears. You have learned Moonlit Deer Walk. This technique allows the user to evade, dash, and sidestep. The protagonist is satisfied. Now he can defend himself. The human centipede collects the tablets and disappears back into the darkness. The protagonist hears a noise and thinks his parents are back, so he says he'd better get back to his room. The system window displays that the first form of Deer Walk, evasion, requires 3 agility points, but the protagonist only has 2. He wonders how he's supposed to increase his agility. As he returns to his room, he hears someone entering through his bedroom window. A mysterious man stands there in disbelief. So it's really true, he says. You're alive. Now I want to see what you're really made of. The mysterious man lunges toward the protagonist with a sharp dagger and a gun in his hand. The protagonist dodges and evades the attack. He is now on high alert. Whoever wants him dead has sent an assassin to finish the job. The protagonist activates his polite skill and asks the assassin, is there something I can help you with? The skill fails and the assassin still tries to kill him. A system window pops up and says, the crystal has granted the protagonist knowledge. In the nightmare realm, skills, techniques, titles, and equipment have their own ranks from lowest to highest. Gray, broken, white, normal, green, excellent, blue, exceptional, and purple, 1 in a million. The higher the rank, the stronger the effect. Your title, polite person, is ranked gray broken. The protagonist starts to get nervous. He can't use his skills and he still can't activate Moonlit Deer Walk. The assassin points his gun at him. Now really panicking, the protagonist sees another system window appear. Titles can be consumed to gain status points. The higher the rank, the more points you receive. Out of breath, the protagonist commands the system to consume the title polite person. Consumption successful. Agility increased. 2-3. Skill unlocked. Moonlit Deer Walk, first form, evasion. The protagonist activates the ability and dashes out the room's door. The assassin follows through the door but finds himself staring into a dark passage. The protagonist appears behind him and says, so long, before slamming the door shut. No Diddy, the human centipede is about to consume the assassin. You hear the assassin screaming, followed by loud crunching noises. The protagonist, now safely back in his room, feels overwhelmed by his near-death experience. Another system window appears. Your sacrifice of a living person has pleased the other party. In accordance with the principle of equivalent exchange, the other party offers items in return. The contract is recognized. Items received: Pale Shadow Crown, Silver War Medal. Pale Shadow Crown, green, excellent. Imbued with high-level shadow magic from the Gloom Abyss. Allows the wearer to disguise themselves as a member of the elf race. Silver War Medal. A symbol of honor and merit. Wearing it will teleport the wearer to elven territory. The protagonist puts on the crown and transforms into an elf. Delighted by how adorable he looks, he takes a selfie. Just then he's interrupted by a voice from outside asking, is Shinyi home? The protagonist grows nervous again, wondering if it's yet another assassin. The person behind the protagonist's bedroom door says, it's me, Chinhaoyu. The protagonist realizes it's Shinye's best friend. He shifts back to his normal self and opens the door. Chinhaoyu gives the protagonist a hug while crying hysterically. The protagonist's mother interrupts them to see who's visiting. Startled, the protagonist asks his mother where his father is. She replies that his father went to see his grandfather to get help finding more supertonics. Shin Haoyu tells the protagonist that his parents are really looking out for him and that he should do better in school. The protagonist realizes he missed the first high school exams and feels bummed about it. His mother tells him not to be upset. Although he may have missed the strength test, he still has a chance to get a high score in agility. In this world, exams are different. They don't focus solely on academics but also test physical strength and agility. The protagonist then thinks about how he might not be able to return to school because he's being hunted and would only be putting a target on his back. His mother notices how worried he looks and gives him a heartwarming hug. She tells him that if he doesn't want to take the exams, he doesn't have to. The protagonist brushes it off and tells her he's strong and will go back to school tomorrow. More memories from Shinye's previous life begin to flood his mind. He remembers that Shinye's grandfather is some kind of big shot with a lot of money. However, his parents never asked for his help, which makes the protagonist realize they must have swallowed their pride and begged his grandfather for the expensive supertonic. He feels guilty because their real son is already dead and now he wants to do right by them. The next day, the protagonist reads a book, trying to cram everything he missed while he was hospitalized. A student walks up and tells him that a girl named Zhao Yibing is in the hallway looking for him. The protagonist remembers her from Shan Ye's memories. They were basically friends with benefits. He walks up to Zhao and asks if she was looking for him. She says she heard he came back for the exams and adds that she did well and should get into an elite high school. The protagonist congratulates her, but Zhao suddenly blushes and says she doesn't want him to look for her anymore. The protagonist is confused. Zhao says that eventually they'll part ways, so it's better if they're just friends, nothing more. The protagonist is surprised as he watches Zhao delete his number from her phone. He doesn't think he ever went looking for Zhao in the first place. Other students nearby start gossiping about how Zhao was always all over Xinyi because he had the top scores. Now that he missed an exam, she's dumping him. A female classmate comforts Zhao and tells the protagonist he's a jerk, that Zhao always gave him gifts and he should treat her better. Zhao starts to cry and mutters to herself that she thought they were friends. The protagonist doesn't believe her tears and says that accepting gifts doesn't mean he owes her anything. He tells Zhao that if she really cared about him, she wouldn't have tried to win him over with gifts but would have let him find someone better for him. I wonder what the protagonist means by gifts. The protagonist flips his middle finger at Zhao and says they'll never be friends again and that he'll pay her back for the gifts.